All right, everybody, we got another very special guest for you all this week. I want everybody to welcome to the show Mr. Jonathan Schnapp. Welcome to the show, John.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's first time for you being here, so we'll get into your origin story a little bit before we talk about Order of the Night Jay. So, you're writing the book. You're an artist, an illustrator, and we've like talked to people about like the difference between that, right? Do you really? Because it is a comic, but I would say that art is more of like illustration, I guess. Is that really a definition between the two? What do you think?
Oh, I feel like we're splitting hairs already now.
I know. Yeah, sorry about that.
Illustration is definitely, an art, but, not all art is great for illustration. Art can be all kinds of things. It can be car design or fashion or, market, advertisement is all, art, cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Is great for that. Or you can get like some weird abstract piece. But illustration, I think, is more specific in that you have to, represent a concept specifically for for words or text or a story or something like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. And
but I studied photography, so what do I know?
Well, that's got to help you a little bit with like making images for panels, right? You have to like keep everything in a tight box there.
You would think that, but I still, this was my first real serious outing, and the learning curve is just, it's extreme. There's no real like class you can take. Wait, no, I take that back. There's classes you can take. Yeah. I didn't take them. I like to do things the hard way.
That's all right, how though. I roll. So I mean, you're obviously talented with art before you made the comic. So like, where did it all start for you, and what made you want to do that?
It's such a journey, just life in general, because it's this project kind of grew out of other things I've been doing in my life. I just mentioned I studied photography. Mm-hmm. I lost interest in that because everything went digital, and I didn't want to drop all this money on digital cameras and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I just, I taught for a while. I've worked in like manufacturing and all kinds of, optics fields and stuff like that. I've been a little all over the map. I went to, this is actually relevant, and I don't think I've told this story yet before, but I actually went to a summer camp.
Okay.
To work at a summer camp, and I ended up working in like the arts cabin, shelter, shed, whatever, shack. I worked in the art shack.
The art shack.
It was actually a really terrible experience in that, I hate to say that, kids were terrible because, they're just kids, but, these were some very, they came from money. So there was a lot of things like, oh, why do I have to clean my cabin? Because I have maids and housekeepers at home that do that for me. That sort of behavior was going on.
Yeah.
But working in the art shack, I just started doing stuff. It just, I don't know. I was struggling so much and I needed to escape, and I just started painting and creating these kind of just cartoon animal characters, making them on scrap pieces of wood that we had around the area. And that just kind of snowballed from there, where what's on screen?
His cat.
Sorry, Greedo made his appearance to the show, everybody. He just ruined everything.
Yeah,
I got distracted.
No, that's all right. I did too.
Anyway, so I just kept doing paintings after this camp was over. It was a long camp. I was there for like 2 or 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And my poor wife at the time, like, I had only met her like a few months before, and then I leave and ask her to watch my cat. That was a rough time. And we're still together after that.
Wow.
So I just kept doing these paintings, and I kept growing and experimenting. And like there's a painting behind me that I did. Yep. And it was like a weird little jungle scene thing happening there. I started seeing the paintings more and more of just like single panels or single pages out of bigger storybooks. And from there, I kind of like started exploring writing. I'd never really written before. I thought about like picture books for a while, but it just never really felt right for me. And at the same time, like comics and graphic novels for kids, the middle grade, young adults, younger, they've been exploding recently, and I fell in love with them. So it just kind of, it felt right.
Yeah.
Was that the question? I kind of went off.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Yeah. Okay, good.
You can talk all you want. I mean, the less we have to do, the better. No, that was fantastic.
No, I've talked a lot in the past couple of years about these like early childhood comics, like Dogman's the big one right now, and how like I love these books because they outsell everything that like Mike and I are reading. Like they're huge, and they get kids into reading, which is amazing. That's number one there. But like I look forward to 15 years from now when some kid who grew up on Dogman or maybe your book coming out soon make the Dark Knight Returns of these series, because they're like, I remember this book from when I was a kid, and it's just like us when we were watching Batman as a kid, and like, so yeah, these style of books are amazing, and I'm glad to see more people jumping into them.
Yeah, they're and I did not grow up reading comic books. It was just not a thing that was in my kind of bubble at the time. It just felt overwhelming, and having these graphic novels that are really accessible, I think I would have fallen in love with them as a kid, and I'm so happy to discover them now, and I've got a small collection going, and hopefully, like when my son gets older, he'll actually appreciate them and not be like, stupid dad's stupid books. Not into that.
What are these things? Yeah. These aren't moving pictures. Come on.
Right? Yeah. I expect the book to have like holographic images that jump to life when I open them. Thanks to Zuckerberg's Meta.
Yeah, right.
His Meta books. But I love so much that there's just so much variety in the stories that are being told through comics, because growing up, I didn't have a full picture of like what that world was like, and being able to see like on the same shelf, for kids, like here's, slice of life kind of coming of age books, here's, fantasy books, here's superhero adventure style books, just everything kind of together, because they're not really separated. Like where I'm at, they're not really separated by genre. They're separated by, they're all middle grade, or I'm sorry, graphic novels. Yeah. And so you just get everything all at once, and you get to see like the full like variety. So I find it really inspiring.
Cool. And I think for me, I always talk about like my first comic book was Heroes for Hire in the 90s off a magazine rack in an airport. And I remember it so vividly because I was like 7 or 8 years old. But now that I'm thinking about it, like, I read that issue, but then I really ended up, as far as like what I was reading as a kid or like flipping through, it was Captain Underpants. Like that was it for me. And it's still a huge thing today. Like it's withstood the test of time because that's such an awesome jumping on point for younger people to read. And it's like, people are like, well, comics aren't reading. Well, you're still reading words and interpreting like what's going on. And it's still, as far as the developmental stuff goes, I think it's a huge thing for kids to get into reading, like having these types of books. So,
yeah. And, like so much of our world is image based, we're bombarded with like, internet ads and memes and all that stuff. Like being able to read a graphic novel or a comic book and like seeing the images, and that's its own kind of reading. Just because there's words and pictures doesn't make it any less valid.
Right, for sure.
Exactly.
Okay, so Order of the Night Jay, does this have any relation to like your life as far as the campground and everything, because it doesn't have that type of setting, right?
Yep. So it is, I don't want to say a lot of like the undercurrent, the emotional undercurrents that are in the book are definitely inspired, whether I meant to or not. I got probably like halfway through the book and I said, oh, I've been writing myself the whole time.
Yeah.
But, like the details of like where the camp's at, or, things like that. Apart from like, I was in Scouts growing up, did that for years and years and years. So merit badges and summer camps and being outside and having, jerks for other scout campers next to me. You know, that's all ingrained in my marrow right now. So it's a little bit of both. You know, it's a fictionalized, but at the same time, there's a lot of my own stuff going on in there, which is a little weird.
Yeah, and we could talk about that because, I mean, you don't have to reveal too many spoilers, but you have this Order of the Night Jay, which you say is like an ancient, secret, forgotten order thing. So there's another layer to the story.
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
So, like, when I was first, like, brainstorming, you know, what I wanted to do, and I always think of writing as being like, I don't know, sometimes I think of it as like a shelf. And I've got like the shelf is just filled with like all these ideas, and I like just look at the shelf and say, what do I want to play with today? And I pull off, you know, maybe like some toy trains, and I put them in order on a train track and be like, that's my story. It's just these random ideas that I had. And so, like, Order of the Night, that's a really weird metaphor, John.
No, that's perfect. That's fine. No, we've heard them all. That's
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
It's, you know, I just like collecting ideas of things that I think are cool or that I wish, you know, I hope to use one day, you know, in a story. Order of the Night Jay was a lot of that because there's, it was based on a painting I did, so I already had characters kind of roughly made up. You know, the designs changed since then, but I did a painting that had the two main characters, Ricky and Frank, a raccoon and a bear, respectively, you know, dressed up as scouts. And then I've got this whole background in scouting, and Boy Scouts, which I think they're called Scouts BSA now, or something weird like that. They actually have their own, like, secret order of, I don't know if they're like super scouts or just scoutier scouts than the other scouts.
Scoutier, you
know,
scouts. That's what it is. They're scoutier scouts, for sure.
But I remember like going to campouts and hearing about this, and it was like, what is this thing? It was called Order of the Arrow. And I think it was kind of questionable, like, you know, what they're using with, like, you know, American Indian imagery and stuff like that. It's, you know, a little bit not sure how politically correct that is. But that was actually the idea for the name of, like, Order of the Arrow. Okay. And then I just changed, that's how creative I am. I just changed arrow into a bird, and that was it.
That's it. No,
that was it.
Yeah. I think that's interesting, though. And I mean, the book itself, it says 160 pages. That's a pretty large feat in itself, especially for, like, this is going to be your first published work, right?
Yep. And it's the first of a trilogy.
Wow.
It's funny. So the story, when I first, you know, sent it off to Chris over at Top Shelf, I was only pitching him one book, like the whole, like, you know, arc, which of course is just, you know, I've thrown that whole outline out the window at this point. The story is completely different.
Yeah.
But I had this whole, you know, outline laid out because, you know, I had about 60 pages of finished art to show, which has then also been reworked because I like punishment. And thankfully, Chris was smart enough to say, this is going to be too long of a book. We're gonna have to split this up into at least 2 books. And he was right, because that would have been probably 400 or 500 pages.
Oh my god!
At the rate I'm going now. Yeah. So 160 pages is a lot of work. This has been about 2.5 years in the making.
Wow.
While I'm, you know, working a day job and doing other stuff for sure. But it's been slowly driving me insane, but also keeping me sane at the same time.
Okay.
Having that other of a big project.
Mm-hmm. That's so you're saying that 160 pages is just, you know, your volume 1, but you have a plan for 2 other volumes that big. Okay.
Pretty much. I am sketching through book 2 as we speak. Book 1 has been done since like February. I've just been kind of waiting. Thanks to, you know, supply chain things, the release date's been pushed back a couple of times.
Of course. Yep.
A little frustrating, but, you know, it gives me more time to kind of, you know, get used to having life with a baby now, and then sketch out new stuff. So I'm probably I haven't even counted. I think I'm about 110, 120 pages sketched out for book 2.
Wow.
So that's probably going to be at least another 160, and then who knows what's going to happen for book 3. But the story just keeps growing the more I play with it. It's gone in places I never would have predicted. It was kind of started off as less spooky, less supernatural, less adventure themed in a lot of ways, and it was more of a sensitive kind of coming of age, dealing with bullies kind of story. I think it's gotten a lot more interesting and has a lot more layers now, which is great. It hurts my brain to keep all those layers together.
Yeah, right.
But it's great.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's a lot of stuff, especially that many pages. A lot of different.
And the more I do, because I want, again, like I've got that shelf with all these ideas, and I love the kind of stories that have like secrets, and there's mysteries to solve, and there's maps, and there's slapstick, and just all kinds of things wrapped in together. Like like the TV show Gravity Falls is a big inspiration. It's got all these secrets that you can watch the show over and over and find hidden characters or hidden messages in the show. So I wanted to do stuff like that because I think that's amazing. That is a pain in the butt, but I made up codes for the book. I found places to like put little mazes or secrets in there. There's secret codes scattered throughout book 1.
Oh wow.
So that kids can go back and look through and try and find those messages, maybe decode them themselves. I put in real things like, here's how you tie a knot. Here's how you use a compass, because I think it's kind of cool to be able to read a book that's just a graphic novel and say, now I know how to tie a knot. I didn't realize I was learning stuff, but I learned stuff. So there's a lot going on.
I was going to ask, when creating a book that's specifically geared towards children, do you have that in the back of your head that like I should put some sort of extra lesson in here, or like some cool little thing they can learn, or is that just happen by accident?
I think this is a good sign that I am now officially one of the olds. I'm in my 40s now, and I like learning things. And I realize that I like learning things. And so I put stuff in there because I think it's interesting. I really hate the idea of making a book where, there's a lesson and it's educational, but, there's kind of a plot, but it's, it has that kind of preachy sort of vibe to it. I think kids can read that really quickly and suss out that this is just, that it's kind of lame. So I wanted a book where like, there's stuff in there for kids to learn. And if they look at some of the pages, they can just see things and maybe it'll inspire them to look and learn more about those concepts. But I don't want to have like, here's how you do, blurpity flarb. We're going to blurpity flarb for the next 5 pages. And then we'll get back to the story. It's more like an aside, like, here's the instructions for tying a knot in like one panel, and you can follow along with the images, but the characters just go on and do their own thing.
Awesome. And can we talk about...
There will be 5 pages on Blarpity Flarb in book 2.
Okay, good.
Unfortunately.
That's what I was hoping for. I was hoping we'd come back to that at some point. So talk about Top Shelf Productions a little bit. How did that relationship start?
That was like, this is still like such a surreal experience. It hasn't helped that the book, the release date keeps getting pushed back. It like keeps, encouraging that, you're not really getting published. This isn't really, a thing that's happening in your life, because this has been something I've been working on for, years now. And I've been hoping to get published for years now. When I had like that first packet of stuff for Order of the Night Jay, I started sending it out to like, some agents and things like that. And it's always really hard to find the right fit in terms of a publisher or an agent, especially in like kids literature.
Right.
because there's so many people out there trying to get, kids literature published, all these novels and picture books, that it's just finding the right person to look at your work is a huge part of it. And then it's almost like, you can do the work to make a cool book, but then you have to do almost as much work to like get yourself ready for somebody to look at it with like a query letter and all that stuff. Top Shelf, I'd pitched them something once before. It was adorable, but really terrible at the same time. It was my first ever attempt at like a book, and it was about a chicken that decided the moon was its lost egg and it wanted to go into space.
Awesome.
It builds a rocket ship out of farm equipment. That's
amazing.
Idea.
Yeah.
very, very, very Wallace and Gromit, kind of thing. Yeah. But it was kind of like somewhere in between like a picture book and a graphic novel. So it was not really well, defined, but I loved it. It's my first project. So it's the one it's like, I'm going to get this published. And you just start sending it everywhere.
Right.
And I sent it off to Top Shelf because Top Shelf, like Chris's email, the editor's email address is right on their website. And they say, send us your stuff. We want to look at your stuff. That's really rare, I think, today, where like you can get like direct access and send something directly to somebody to look at it. And he got back to me the same day, which is also really rare. Normally like you might never hear anything like for months. And he said, yeah, this is not quite our jam, but thanks for sending it and I hope to see you around. And it was a really nice, thoughtful and quick email reply.
Yeah.
So when I had Night J, I was getting ready to send that out. I said, why not? Let's try it again. Just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and to see which strand of spaghetti will publish your book. And I heard back the same day, and he was all about it. And
awesome.
It's just that like, I don't want to say it's pure luck because,
no, obviously not.
I spent a lot of time working on it and getting a story together, but there's so much of just that, the stars align and the Mercury's in retrograde and that sort of thing, where it feels like magic just kind of happened in that moment. They've been such a pleasure to work with. I probably couldn't have asked for a better publisher.
Awesome.
I mean, I believe firmly in the adage that luck is preparation plus opportunity, and that sounds to me like what it was. Like you'd worked to that point, you had met these people, even though they turned you down, but you remembered them, and the opportunity struck once you put the right preparation in.
I did have a little prayer altar over here.
There you go,
with some comic blood.
Those issues of Kiss.
Kiss issues. That I heard about that back in the 80s. I will say Top Shelf is actually and I didn't look into this too much until we had the interview, but they're owned by IDW as an imprint. And I almost wonder if like the way they organize their website compared to some other I would say children's book publishers, they actually distinctly say like graphic novels and like other categories, and it's treated as something that's I think it's treated more seriously as a product rather than like how I've seen some other like books marketed, I would say. So I think they do a really good job of like putting things out there overall. So yeah, that's awesome. And you said that you want to work on a trilogy. So were there talks about that too? Like, oh yeah, we would love to publish, the second and third volume, or
so the way, I'd barely finished book one before Chris emailed me back and said, I know you're busy and you just did all this work, but where's book two at? Let's get started on that. And then I had to email back and say, I've started, but I also have a baby now, so
yeah. That's a great email to get too.
Yeah, that's a great email.
I don't know that there was a question. I had my head so deep in just the nitty gritty of getting pages together and trying to wrap up all those loose ends that, like, thinking about, like, what the future was going to bring, or where book 2 was going to be, was like, I'll deal with that when I get to it.
Right.
But, I get a sense that they enjoy the project, so I'm excited that, they've got my back, and
they have the pre-order up on their website, so maybe the pre-order numbers have been pretty good. Yeah.
I actually have no visibility in that whatsoever. So wow. I am in the dark, and I have this deep dark fear. Do you guys know what Ollie's Bargain Outlet is?
Yes.
It's like one of those dumping ground stores.
Yeah.
We go there just for fun, and then they've got, like, here's a pile of graphic novels.
Yeah.
Like, there's this nightmare scenario in my head where I go there and I see my book, and it's like, no.
Oh, no.
Not that because everybody who's there, like, wanted to produce something awesome, I'm sure, but then somehow they just ended up there.
They ended up at Ollie's. Yeah.
They ended up at Ollie's Bargain Outlet.
I think
go to Ollie's every so often to grab some, and I got a bunch of Fables stuff because apparently DC overprinted Fables. But what's amazing to me when I go through there, and this shouldn't surprise you, Mike, but it's always volume 2s.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Because everybody grabs volume 1, but they don't grab volume 2.
No, yeah. And I've been to stores too where they always have volume 2s and 3s and 4s, and I'm like, well, I can't get into this. There's no volume 1. I can't do it.
All right, so I'm safe for book 1 is what you're saying.
Yeah, book 1 you're good. Book 2
that's the one I got to worry about.
A little dicey.
I didn't mean to freak you out there, but I just thought it was funny. It was always volume 2s.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not freaked out. This is I'm at the point where I'm a little over it, and it's like over that fear. I mean, I'm just happy. I haven't even seen the printed book yet. That's
wow.
I'm hoping to see some copies. I'm going to the Small Press Expo. What is it? Next weekend? I think it's next weekend over. Oh boy, I got to get started packing. So we're hoping to have some copies there.
Where's that at? Small Press Expo?
Small Press Expo is in Bethesda, Maryland.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll be.
I've never been to Bethesda, Maryland, but that sounds.
Yeah, me either. I didn't know that was a place, but
right.
Yeah,
it's close to DC. It's like I think it's right near DC.
I was going to ask too because I know like Top Shelf does San Diego Comic-Con and things like that. So they've obviously talked to you about presenting at cons with the book. So
not like an official capacity. I think this year the timing didn't quite work out for the big Comic Cons. A Small Press Expo I've heard is really fun.
Yeah.
I'm kind of new to a lot of this, so I've never been to a comic convention. This will be my first time. Do you guys have tips for me? What should I
Dr. Scholl's in the shoes. Oh, you're going to be sitting at a table though, so like from my perspective as a con goer, it's like I always bring a backpack because I buy so much stuff. Always have a water bottle, and then Dr. Scholl's brand new ones in the shoes or some sort of inserts because your feet will kill you. Because it's usually like a cement floor.
Yeah. And as somebody that has a lot of friends that make comics, and I go to a lot of shows and I'll see them there, stadium seating because they give you the crappiest fold-out chairs possible.
Yep.
Like Mike said, water or whatever beverage you prefer.
Yep.
And plenty of it because some of them will have water for you, some won't. You never really know.
Right, depending on how they're organized. Yeah.
And then lots of Purell.
Lots of Purell.
There you go. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Industrial size Purell right at your table.
Okay.
Yeah, because you're either fist bumping or shaking hands all day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll let me take that on the plane, but we'll figure something out.
It shouldn't be hard to find once you land.
Yeah.
I will MacGyver some Purell.
There you go. This is exciting after talking to you and seeing the art's pretty fantastic and stuff like that. So I'm happy for you that they talked about Volume 2. Before we let you go, though, because you're doing the writing and the art, I was curious, do you sketch some ideas up first and then like write the dialogue and stuff in between, or how does it come for you? Do you start writing ideas down and say, oh, this would be cool to draw?
Yeah.
Or
So I have a very kind of weird organic process. I kind of get an idea in my head. I get my train cars all lined up, right? I pull things off the shelf, and then I go through and I just sketch everything out. Like I started for book 1. It was all in just a 9x12 sketchbook, with pencil, just little thumbnails with all the dialogue, and that's where I consider like all the writing actually happens, because I start to lay out the pages.
Okay.
I really, really struggle just typing words on a page.
Oh, gotcha.
My brain just does not work that way, especially when I know there's going to be pictures involved, because I'm so busy thinking like it's going to look like this, but I don't know where, like, what, how do things flow? How do things, how does the pacing look? I can't just visualize it, so I have to see it. I have it right here. Because I have a baby, and I don't think I've shown you this. I got a tablet.
Oh, okay.
It was a refurbished tablet, so you can see like the colors are all funky on it, but it does the job of like, then since I would need to like rock the baby to sleep, I'd doodle on this tablet in the dark while rocking this baby to sleep, and I've been doing my thumbnails that way. And now I'm kind of like back and forth. I do some like manually with pencil and paper, and some of it goes into the tablet there, and then I'm just kind of merging it all, and then I go into final art.
Wow.
So it's kind of painstaking, but it's just the way my brain works. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. This is great stuff, John. And if our listeners and viewers, obviously Chris will talk about having the link and for your pre-order, because it is up on Top Shelf Productions website. But if our listeners and our viewers, they want to follow anything you're doing, do you put some of your art out there on Instagram or anything?
I am very I find social media very exhausting. I haphazardly maintain an Instagram. It's flimsy _robot. Because I consider myself to be a very flimsy robot. I'm always falling apart. I started doing like a countdown to the book release today or yesterday. So I've got, a few, we're up to like 9. It's a very short countdown so far. And I have a website. It's flimsyrobot.com, where you can just see some of my paintings and some other stuff. That's about it.
Great.
I suppose I should twit one of these days, but it doesn't.
It's tough.
The decision to not use social media is a better one. So you're making the right one.
All right. Pat myself in the back for that.
There you go.
Hooray for laziness.
Out there, as Mike hinted to, you can check the show notes down below, and I will have links to the pre-order and John's website down below, so you can go check it out. And also, the book is coming out through Top Shelf IDW, so check out your local comic shop. They should have a copy, or at least be able to order you a copy if they don't. And I also assume it'll probably hit bookstores as well. Maybe not on the 20th when it's scheduled, but usually they come out within a week after that as well. So check out your local bookstore as well if you can do there.
Yep. So you can pre-order pretty much, I think, anywhere pre-orders are taken.
Great.
There you go. If you have that local comic shop, go support your local comic shop, everybody.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, John, thank you so much for taking the time to come chat with us. Really appreciate it, and look forward to the book, and we'll talk sometime again in the future.
Yeah, thanks, you. This was fun. Meet again for book 2.